All right, I'm here. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thank you for joining us on a Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. It was a good one on multiple fronts. Around here, it was nice and sunny all weekend, and there was some good sports, man. Some good sports. Now, for the umpteenth time in a row, college football was largely disappointing. Oklahoma loses again. Texas loses to TCU. The Big 12 is officially irrelevant for this particular season. I mean, I think maybe Oklahoma State is still undefeated. I'm not completely sure, but, it's Oklahoma State. Texas was really the last shot there to put somebody in the college football playoff. That's not going to happen at this point. So Big 12 faded into irrelevancy. That was the most important thing that happened over the weekend. Alabama plays another top 15 team. They smoke said top 15 team because the SEC is largely uninspiring apart from Alabama. But hey, neither here nor there. What we did get last night in return was one of the more impressive playoff performances considering the circumstances. Now, we love to overreact in the sports world. Calling what Jimmy Butler did last night the greatest or one of the greatest playoff performances ever might be a little bit of a stretch, but not a long stretch. Because what Jimmy Butler did last night was nothing short of incredible, but let's relax just a little bit. I mean, I could think of 3 or 4 LeBron finals performances before I get to what Jimmy Butler did last night, but that's not discrediting what Jimmy did at all. It was absolutely incredible, and considering the circumstances, even more incredible. But we'll get to that here in a second. We're also going to talk NLDS, ALDS predictions. We're getting that underway today. Both the ALDS starting today with the Yankees and the Rays, and then the Athletics and the Astros. In the first round, you had a bunch of teams that had not played each other this year at all. And in the NL and ALDSs, you've got teams, and all of them play in the same division, which is awesome. And even more so, all of them are rivals. It's not even to one extent or the other. You've got teams that have beef in some way, especially, we're talking about the Astros Athletics. That's a series that has some beef right now. It's going to be exciting. Those start tonight. We'll talk about those predictions here in a little while. And then we're going to talk about the NFL a little bit, and specifically how freaking bad the NFC East is. Oof. Real bad. We'll get to that around 11:40 or so. Get to some FY and get out of here. But listen, we sit here on October 5th, and despite injuries, despite almost everybody, including me, riding off the heat, after 3 NBA Finals games, we've got a series that is as close as it can possibly be in terms of the numbers. Siri responded to me. I wasn't talking to you, Siri. It's as close as it can be in terms of a series. It's 2-1. Somebody has to be up 2-1 after 3 games. And now, there's ways for a series to be a lot closer when it's 2-1 than this series is. But the Heat went out last night. 115-104 win. Jimmy Butler, 40 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 14 of 20 from the field, 12 of 14 from the free throw line in 44 minutes and 51 seconds. An absolutely elite performance from Jimmy Butler here, and I want to point out a couple things here. Because it's not just these numbers. I mean, these numbers are ludicrous. Don't get me wrong. This is an incredible performance. What makes this more impressive is a couple things. One, I wasn't sure Jimmy Butler was capable of this to this extent. Now, he's been great in the fourth quarters of games. He was great, game one of the Celtics series in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was fantastic in the last 6 minutes of that game and then in overtime. But the secret there is that through 4 games, he was largely, irrelevant's not the right word, but uninspiring. I mean, he was 7 of 14 in game 1 of that series, but 4 of 11, 6 of 13, 5 of 11 in game 5. Showed up in a big way in game 6, but if he doesn't make the shot that he makes at the end of regulation, at the end of the fourth quarter against the Celtics, Jason Tatum makes that shot at the end of regulation instead of missing it, and the Celtics go on to win that game, then we're talking about Jimmy Butler being leaving something to be desired. And the way that this Heat team is built is he doesn't have to go and score 35 points every night. But last night the Heat had to put a team on the floor that is not built that is not built the way that they've put together this roster, of course, for obvious reasons. No Bam Adebayo, no Goran Dragic. But what that results in is a changing in the role of Jimmy Butler on this Heat team. Jimmy Butler all of a sudden needs to be much closer to what LeBron James was in the 2015 NBA Finals. You remember those? That's not the blow the 3-1 lead. That's the LeBron essentially with nobody else because both Kyrie and Kevin Love are hurt. Kyrie played the first part of that series, I believe, but Kevin Love was hurt. And by the end of the series, it was neither of them. Let's see, the starting lineup in Game 5 or whatever, Game 6 of that series was LeBron, Tristan Thompson, Iman Shumpert, Dellavedova, and Timothy Mozgov. That was the starting lineup of Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The point being is that LeBron in that series took 38, 35, 34, 22, 34, 33 shots. He was ridiculous. 44, 39, 40, 20, had an off game that day, 40, 32. While also dishing 6, 11, 8, 8, 11, 9 assists and 8, 16, 12, 12, 14, 18 rebounds. Absolutely elite. Here's what Jimmy Butler did last night. 14 of 20 shooting, 12 of 14 from the free throw line, 40 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds. Sound slightly familiar? Without Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo on the floor, Jimmy Butler's role turns much more into a 2015 LeBron James role than and I don't even know what to completely equate this to, because this Heat team is so interesting from the fact that it's a lot of young guys and a lot of not stars, but a lot of really good basketball players, several all-stars. You got Jimmy, Bam, Goran Dragic, but then you've got these, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, Tyler Hero, all these reasons that this Heat team is so deep. Kelly Olynyk playing really, really good basketball in these finals when getting a chance to be on the floor much more. And getting to stay on the floor because Anthony Davis refuses to assert his dominance against Kelly Olynyk and Jay Crowder, for crying out loud. But Jimmy Butler's role fundamentally changed fundamentally changed. And he kind of did it but he took 17 shots, he had 25 points, 13 assists, 8 rebounds in game 2. That was him getting there, and then he really stepped into that completely in game 3. The only way for them to win games in this series until Bam and Dragic get back is if Jimmy is that good. Because here's the thing. The Lakers turned it over 19 times. LeBron and AD shot it pretty poorly. Anthony Davis was completely non-existent in this game. Went to the free throw line 2 times in 33 minutes. I don't know what his issue was. The second and third best players on the floor in this game for the Lakers were Markieff Morris and Kyle Kuzma. Despite all of those things, 19 turnovers, getting only 11 points from your other 3 starting guys. They went, Dwight Howard was 2 of 2 from the floor, but only played 14 minutes. Danny Green only played 16. The best players all were coming off the bench for the Lakers, but, you didn't get a ton from Rondo or Caruso. You just didn't get enough, ultimately. Despite all of that, Rajon Rondo made a layup with, 8 minutes left or something, or 6 minutes left, to put the Lakers up by 2. Despite all of that. Now, Jimmy Butler was the best player on the floor, and the Heat, as an extension, were the better team from that point on, and they end up winning by 11. But despite all of that, the Lakers still had a chance to win this game at the end. The point being is that this really was the only way for the Heat to win this game, is for Jimmy Butler to go out and do exactly what he did. Because you didn't get a whole lot from the other guys. I mean, Tyler Hero was good in the fourth quarter, yes, but he was only 6 of 18 from the floor. Inefficiency in off games is what you expect from a 20-year-old who is clearly stepping into his own a lot quicker than people thought he would. He gets the big and one late in the game to really seal it. Gives him that little snarl, which I love. Shouts to Tyler Hero. But he had 17 on 6 of 18 shooting. Duncan Robinson was 3 of 10 from the 3-point line. Those 2 guys were 5 of 17 combined from deep. Throw Jay Crowder in there. They're 7 of 25 from deep. Kelly Olynyk was tied with Hero as the second leading scorer with 17. You got enough. But the reason they won this game is because Jimmy Butler understood what he needed to go out and do, and that was score 40 and have a triple-double. Now, the Lakers are still going to win this series. I'm still pretty confident in that. But Jimmy Butler understood what he had to go out there and do, and that's impressive. That's something I wasn't sure Jimmy Butler was capable of doing. And the other part of it is that he's just spent all season not having to be that guy. He's the guy they go to late in games when it's close. He's the guy who's the heart and soul of this team, and the biggest part of this Heat culture identity. But he hasn't been the guy all season that had okay, Jimmy, we need you to go out and score. We need you to go out and score 26 a game. I mean, this season we're talking 19.9 points, 6.7 rebounds, 6 assists. 45% shooting from the field, 24% shooting from deep, 83% from the free throw line. Those aren't blow me away numbers, which is not a bad thing because that's not what the Heat needed him to do this season, and wasn't what they needed him to do in the playoffs either, especially in the playoffs because you had Dragic who was very much in all-star, returning to his all-star level play. Bam was the best player in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it wasn't particularly close. You've had Hero, who's been a consistent 15, 16 points per game guy in these playoffs. Duncan Robinson shooting it well. Jay Crowder shooting it well in spurts. You just had a lot going on, and you didn't need him to go out and score 26 until now. And you needed him to score a lot more than 26. And that's what he went out and did. really quite impressive. It was only the third time, in these playoffs that he's taken more than 19 shots. The difference here is that it was the only way they were going to win this game, is if he took 20 or more shots. He went to the free throw line 14 times, so he took more shots than that. They just, when you get fouled, it doesn't count as a shot. When you get fouled and you miss, that is, it doesn't count as a shot. So there were more than that. Since he didn't take a 3-pointer, which is just crazy that he scored 40 in an NBA Finals game in 2020 and didn't take a 3-pointer. That's crazy. What happens is, you add, he takes 14 free throws, so that's 7 more shots, so he took 27, if you want to look at it that way. The point being is that he went out and controlled this game from start to finish, did exactly what he needed to do in this game. In the first half alone, he had 19 points on 8 of 12 shooting. Only went to the free throw line 4 times, so he went and really got to the basket more and forced the issue. 9 of 10 from the free throw line in the second half, 6 of 8 shooting, 21.7 assists, 5 rebounds in the second half alone. Absolutely spectacular. And listen, man, this Heat team is not going away. I was a little concerned. I mean, because first of all, if you go down 3-0, the series is over because no team in NBA history has come down from 3-0, and it's LeBron. But I was a little worried that when you get word that Dragic and Bam also not playing Game 3, it would have been really easy for this Heat team to sort of roll over. I mean, hell, we've seen in this series, in these playoffs, we saw a team that was up 3-1 essentially roll over. Ricochet shot at the Los Angeles Clippers, but they deserve every ricochet shot till the end of time, or at least until they win a championship. It would have been easy for them to roll over. Jimmy Butler didn't let that happen. And it's not like he got 37 from Tyler Hero, and it's not like Jay Crowder was 6 of 10 from the 3-point line. You had your best player go out there and put up a number. An absolute number, an absolute performance. And what you get is 2-1. Some of the other things from this game, like I said, Anthony Davis disappeared. 9 shots on 15 points, 5 rebounds. Getting guarded by Jay Crowder and Kelly Olynyk. Let me say that again. Anthony Davis only had 9 shots when being guarded by Jay Crowder and Kelly Olynyk. I don't think I need to say it again. What? Now, to be fair, the Heat clearly making a point of trying to front Anthony Davis, make guys throw it over the top. There was multiple occasions in the first quarter, maybe just one, but trying to lob it over the top to Anthony Davis. The help side defender rolls over and is there, and he gets the charge. I don't know if that was Jimmy Butler. It might have been Jimmy Butler. The point being is that there were certainly some things that the Lakers, the Heat were doing on the defensive end to make things much more difficult for Anthony Davis. But it shouldn't matter. First of all, still the Lakers refuse to put somebody in the middle of the zone. It will continue to drive me crazy until they do it. And I haven't looked at the percentage of possessions that the Heat played zone, but I know it's not 0. And neither Anthony Davis nor LeBron James took a shot from the free throw line. Not shooting free throws, but that right there in the center, it's wide open when they play that zone. Just put somebody there. Please, I'm begging you. Begging you to put somebody there. But without Bam on the floor, the Heat don't have the personnel to shut down to Anthony Davis the way that they did. He was 6 of 9 from the field. This is the thing that drives me crazy about Anthony Davis, is that he disappears in games where he can get whatever he wants. I mean, it takes, you watch the 7-minute YouTube video of highlights from this game, and all of Anthony Davis's points are jumping over everybody for putback dunks, just getting what he wants when he wants to get it. He just clearly wasn't all that interested in getting it for a lot of this game. He only took 2 free throws in this one. That's the officially my... I don't care what Anthony Davis does in a game. If he doesn't take 10 free throws, he didn't do what he could. At least not completely. He should shoot 10 free throws every single game, because if he's really being aggressive, there's nothing anybody can do about it except for foul him. And especially there's nothing Kelly Olynyk and Myers Leonard and Jay Crowder can do about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's why the fact that, in this, there's been some talk about maybe Anthony Davis is better than LeBron James. This is why, in a nutshell, that Anthony Davis is not better than LeBron James. Every time LeBron gets a guard switched onto him, whether it's Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson that he's really going after, but Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, whoever it might be, every time a guard switches onto LeBron, he goes right after him. They should be giving the ball to Anthony Davis on the post literally every time down the floor. Because it just fails the out loud test that he might be contained the way that he got contained in Game 4 and Game 3 with the personnel that the Heat had available to them. Jay Crowder's a nasty defender and similar to PJ Tucker, one that can bother Anthony Davis. But first of all, it shouldn't bother Anthony Davis. The guy's 3 inches shorter than you. Just put your butt on him and push him backwards. Kelly Olynyk would rather be around the 3-point line than be guarding you down low. Drives me absolutely crazy. This was part of the reason that the Lakers lost this game as well, because Anthony Davis just sort of disappeared. He took only 1 shot in the fourth quarter. Again, someone explain. Lakers committed 19 turnovers. LeBron and AD were responsible for 13 of them. And the Lakers just got 11 points from their other 3 starters. Now, the other, 8 guys that they can go to are sort of all in the same boat there. It just happens to be that the 3 guys who struggled out of those 8 players were the 3 guys that started with them. I mean, Danny Green was non-existent, so was KCP, so was, Dwight Howard only played 14 minutes, but I need Dwight Howard to pull down more than 3 rebounds in 14 minutes. I mean, they threw that oop to Dwight Howard in the first 15 seconds of the game. I was like, oh, it's over. We can go home. 3-0. We'll see you on Tuesday for the end of the series. Clearly that was wrong, but that felt like a very, okay, yeah. It's kind of like, when the Warriors really have it going and Steph hits this, ridiculous step back way up in the air 3 at the end of the shot clock. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that team's just better than we are. Ended up not being the case, but it made me laugh how that was the beginning of the game. There were certainly some things outside of Jimmy Butler that were the reason that the Heat won this game, but none of it matters if Jimmy Butler doesn't do what he did. And that's one of the first times that I've really seen that from him to that extent. When there's literally nobody else on the floor that can make it happen. Very, very impressed by that. Very impressed by that. Coming up next, we're going to talk NLDS, ALDS, both ALDS series underway this evening. We'll talk about my predictions, tell you why. That's coming up next on the JMULL Show on 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Monday. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the 3-game wildcard series in its current state, and I say that just, because we've alluded to, Rob Manfred has alluded to the idea of some sort of expanded playoffs. Here's the thing that we need to make sure remains consistent from the way that the playoffs usually take place. I need division winners to not have their season come down to a 3-game series. You need more incentive than that. Getting to play that 3-game series at home is not good enough incentive. So, I think just in general, there's something to be said for taking a look at what is actually happening as a result of COVID-19 and these sports leagues and seeing, okay, what might be a good idea to hold on to, but what can we realize is really just a result of the times, and it needs to just go away with COVID when that happens. I think the MLB playoffs and the MLB regular season is a great example of that. Starting a runner on second when in extra innings is a no-go. 7-inning doubleheaders, maybe. Universal DH, 100%. That just makes sense. The playoffs expanded in some way, shape, or form, okay, maybe. Making division winners play the wild card series. This is the part where I scratch my head. Ultimately, the Dodgers made it through, the Braves made it through, the Yankees made it through, the Rays made it through, the Padres made it through. The Cubs were really the only team that should have won their series and didn't, and the Marlins have never lost a playoff series. So in many ways, the Cubs had no chance, right? But ultimately, it wasn't that big of a deal. I think we've still got the two teams in baseball that are, at least in terms of rosters, the best, in the Yankees and the Dodgers. We got the Dodgers-Padres series that we wanted in the NLDS. And a lot of the best baseball teams right now still playing baseball. So ultimately, COVID did give the Marlins superpowers, man. Absolutely ridiculous. And part of me is like, give me the Marlins in whatever bet there might be, because it's borderline dumb to bet against the Marlins, right? Historically, in the playoffs, when they get there, they win. But with that being said, let's talk NLDS, ALDS predictions. We've got, from this point on, we've got a normal postseason. Of course, we're not traveling back and forth to different ballparks. We've got neutral sites for the divisional rounds all the way through the World Series. But we'll start with tonight's games. Astros Athletics. The Astros pitching approach in the wild card round was really quite interesting. Take the pressure off of some guys that you might not have the faith in to go 6 or 7 deep. And basically, it's like Kentucky back in 2015. They had a first half team and a second half team, essentially. So give me a first half pitcher and a second half pitcher. It worked to perfection. The Astros got enough from their offense, but it was the pitching that got them through that series ultimately. I have much less faith in their ability to win a 5-game series because you just don't have the personnel to do it like that. The pitching staff is already short without Justin Verlander, and you don't have 10 arms essentially to that you can put into the quote unquote starting rotation to map out a series the way that they mapped out the wild card round, really nice moves by Dusty Baker. Actually, I liked that approach a lot. But you're gonna need pitchers in this series to go 6 deep, so that you can then have your setup men in 7 and 8, and then a closer in 9. The way that you'd love for every single game to go from a pitching side of from the pitching side of things. I have much less faith in the Astros to make that happen. The Astros bats have been uninspiring pretty much all year. They weren't great in the wild card. They just didn't have to do a whole lot because of the pitching that they got in that series. I do think this is going to be close. The Athletics, I think the slightly better baseball team at this point, with lots of experience. If the Astros certainly have the bats, if they get hot, then this is a series that can be even more interesting. But I'll ultimately go with the Athletics in 4, maybe 5, but I just don't think the Astros have enough pitching to get through a series that is more than 3 games. Rays, Yankees. Listen, like a week and a half ago, less than that, a week ago, I picked the Rays to get out of the AL. I think it was pretty clear who the NL favorite should be. In the AL, I think there were a lot of different ways you could go. And then I saw what the Yankees offense did to the best pitching staff in baseball, and one of the more impressive regular seasons, albeit shortened, from Shane Bieber. And that Cleveland Indians pitching staff, it was like they were playing a high school pitching staff. It was really quite impressive. If the Indians can't even kind of slow the Yankees offense down, nobody can. The Rays, they have really great pitching and timely hitting. That's what the Rays do. They're going to need really great pitching and more than timely hitting. And I just think that's too much to ask, especially when you can throw Garrett Cole on the mound to start that series. Like, that's just a little terrifying that they can throw that offense out there and then ask Garrett Cole to go start on the mound. Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow, they could, if they have really great games and they can steal one of those. The Rays have the deeper starting pitching, and then it becomes much more interesting. But I find it hard to believe that that's going to be the case. Just when the Yankees are clicking, there's just nothing anybody can do on the offensive side of things. I mean, it was supposed to be Garrett Cole versus Shane Bieber in this. Right now, I mean, you can't get a much better pitching matchup, and it might as well have not even. I mean, the Yankees won that game 12-3 and had 15 hits. So give me the Yankees until somebody slows down that offense, and when you can throw Garrett Cole, you've got your Tanakas. If they go up 2-0, the series is over. So I'll go with the Yankees. I'm going to go with the Yankees. And for the Braves versus Marlins, listen, it still doesn't make sense that the Marlins are here. It doesn't make any sense at all. And even though I just said, maybe there's something to just picking the Marlins until somebody beats them in a playoff series, but I really think this will be the playoff series. The Braves, one of the best offenses in baseball all season. Serviceable pitching led by Max Fried, who is definitely a Cy Young caliber pitcher. It doesn't make sense that the Marlins have made it this far. It just doesn't. The Braves will be the first team ever to beat the Marlins in a playoff series here in the next week or so, and I feel pretty confident in that'll be the case. But Braves, I actually don't have a series, 4 or something. I find it hard to believe any of these series will be sweeps. The Marlins just seem to have that magic, and the rest of them are between teams good enough that I find it hard to believe that there'll be any sweeps. But I expect the Braves to handle this series. please, so that we can move on to better baseball teams than the Miami Marlins. All right, and then finally, this is the most exciting series by far, in my opinion. Dodgers, Padres. The Padres, one of the more fun baseball teams to watch in a long time. The Dodgers, one of the best baseball teams put together in a long time, both in terms of who's actually on that roster and performance. I mean, we've had, you've got guys struggling on multiple fronts, especially on the offensive side of things, and they still were by far the best team in baseball. They basically, it's debatable they even knew that the Brewers were there to play baseball against them. Hopefully Dinelson Lamet and Mike Clevinger can pitch in this series. That makes this really, really interesting. If they can't, I mean, we saw how much the Cardinals made the Padres sweat when those two guys weren't able to go. And that was the Cardinals. No offense to the Cardinals, but that's not a great baseball team. The Dodgers, that is a great baseball team. Clicking on a lot of cylinders right now. I mean, and for crying out loud, it's a pitching staff that has Clayton Kershaw on it, and they've got a guy in Walker Buehler who they feel comfortable enough to throw out there in Game 1. Now, I know it's more of a commentary on rest days than anything else, but that shows you just how good the Dodgers are on both sides of the baseball, that it's not a no-brainer. Of course, Clayton Kershaw is going to start Game 1. It didn't happen in the first series either, which is really quite striking. And then, of course, you've got an offense that just makes everybody, it's just terrifying what they can put out there. They didn't have the greatest of offensive series in the wild card round, but it didn't really matter. They were able to get it done regardless of what the Brewers were doing. And they got really great pitching, which is, they got great pitching. And of course, what they can do on the offensive side of the baseball. They can win games in multiple ways. And that's the secret of going deep in playoffs, is being able to get it done when you don't have the best of one side of the baseball, and finding ways to get it done. Anyways, so give me the Dodgers. Dodgers in 4, I think, especially if Clevinger and Lamet can't go, that makes this much more lopsided, in my opinion, if those guys can't pitch. If they can, maybe it goes 5, but the Dodgers, I just think, are that much better of a baseball team still, even though the Padres have a lot to throw at them and will for the foreseeable future. This is the Dodgers title to lose. This is the Dodgers series to lose. And so I think betting against the Dodgers would be a silly thing to do at this point. Coming up next, we're going to talk about one of the, we might have a team that's 4 games under 500 go to the playoffs out of the NFC East. We'll talk about those teams here in a minute. You're watching the JMULL Show on 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Monday. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Let's talk about the NFC East for a second. Well, first of all, so the team leading the division in 7 of the 8 divisions has at least 3 wins. The Bills 4-0. The Steelers 3-0. The Titans 3-0. One of those teams will be 4-0. Well, never mind. That disregard. The Chiefs 3-0. The Patriots 2-1. One of those teams will also have 3 wins. The Chiefs could go up 4-0. The Packers 3-0. Also up there with the Bears, who are 3-1. The Bucks 3-1, and the Seahawks 4-0. Now let's talk about the NFC East, shall we? Philadelphia Eagles, in terms of win percentage, currently lead the NFC East. They're 1-2-1, followed by the Washington Football Team 1-3, the Dallas Cowboys 1-3. And then the New York Giants, who are just a train wreck without their best player. 0-4. 3 wins. 12 losses. 1 tie. Somebody has to win this division. And this is where there should be a rule, right? There should be a rule that if your division winner is not over 500, they don't get to play. Or at least the wild card gets your spot as a division winner if they have a better record than you do. We need something here because, I mean, these teams are going to have to beat up on each other, right? I mean, these teams still have to play each other a bunch. They're all so bad. It still doesn't make, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me at all that the Cowboys are as bad as they are. Again, but then again, that's how we feel about them pretty much every season. Here's their depth chart on offense. I'll just read you the first 3 names. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper. You got CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. High level offensive line. But man, they just got smoked. They just gave up 49 points to the Cleveland frickin' Browns. The Browns, 307 rushing yards. 307. Jarvis Landry threw a touchdown, a 37-yard touchdown. To Odell Beckham Jr. Like, oh man. It can't be. I mean, Dak was good. 41-58, 502 yards, 4 touchdowns. Shouts to Tony Pollard, Memphis 901, represent. Like to see that a lot. But I mean, Ezekiel Elliott 12 carries, 54 yards, boring. He got 24. So really, we're talking about 11 carries, 30 yards, because one of those carries was for 24. The weapons on this team, they should just... It's got to be something on the water, because I really thought Mike McCarthy was going to change this culture of having a really impressive roster and a really just uninspiring football team. I really thought that Jason Garrett was a big part of that. And it could just be growing pains, but they gave up 24 points in the second quarter. 24! 24. There weren't very many teams this week that scored 24 points. Okay, that's not true. But 24 points. What? It's completely uninspiring. And then the other teams, they just don't have good football teams. I mean, the Giants, they weren't ever going to be good, but then Saquon Barkley out for the season, and then they're even more irrelevant than they already were. Carson Wentz, the older he gets, the more uninspiring he gets. That's just not a good football team. There's just not anything inspiring going on here, and one of these teams gets to go and play in the playoffs, which is ridiculous. I need somebody to play better, please. The Cowboys have to get off to better starts. They're always trailing. I mean, Dak is looking really like his passing numbers are really, really good. They just can't get anything. They can't get off to a good start ever. And so you put him in this position where he has to throw a ton, and he's stepped up to the plate for the most part. And so props to him on that side of things. But it really has been completely uninspiring. Completely uninspiring. I don't know where to go with these teams from here. The idea of them beating up on each other makes me laugh. I mean, there are just no good football teams here. There are ways for some of them to be decent, but I mean, the Cowboys were supposed to be like, they had the makeup of a team to like get to the Super Bowl. And Drew Brees, clearly not the player that he usually is. We'll wait for Michael Thomas to get back, but clearly, I mean, he can't throw more than 8 yards. Tom Brady and the Bucs in their first year, they came back and they looked bad early in that game. We were able to come back and win that one. Are in control of that division now, but it's not. I mean, in the AFC, we're talking the Chiefs and then everybody else, and the Ravens are slightly closer, especially after that Monday night game the other week. But the Cowboys had the talent, and the San Francisco just injuries getting at them. They've sort of faded into irrelevancy. The NFC, I mean, Russell Wilson's the best player in football right now. He's absolutely ridiculous. Shouts to Josh Doring for picking Russell Wilson to win MVP. He's certainly looking like that guy right now. But I'm so sick and tired of the Cowboys being that team and then being so uninspiring. I'm genuinely curious to see how bad the record is of that division winner, because we could be talking about 6-10. We could be talking about 6-10, and that the prospect of that is quite scary. And I'm gonna be really annoyed by that if a 6-10 team is playing in the playoffs. Especially if they're, because undoubtedly there'll be a team that's 9-9 who doesn't get in as a result. Or excuse me, not 9-9, 9-7, 8-8, 7-9. All three of those records would be better than whoever wins this NFC East title. But man, it's been scary bad. Scary bad. We're going to take a quick break, come back with FYI, get out of here. You're watching the JMULL Show, 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Monday. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thanks so much for joining us on a Monday. For your information, the Tennessee Titans received no new positive COVID-19 test results on Monday morning. We're up to 20 members of that organization testing positive for COVID-19 this season. According to Adam Schefter, there's been, the NFL and NFL Players Association investigating whether or not there was any violation of the COVID-19 related protocol that's been put in place by the NFL and the Players Association. You got to think that there's at least something fishy, right? Even if it's just one player, even if it's one player who's ruined everything fun for the entire group, you find it hard to believe that somebody didn't, right? Because this is, it spreads quickly. So, and of course there's a chance that somebody went to the grocery store or something and got it there. But there, you would think there has to be some sort of violation here, because that just I find it hard to believe that was just unlucky. But we'll see. As for the Chiefs and Patriots, both had negative test results this morning. The Patriots overnight COVID-19 tests came back negative, so the team will start its trip to Kansas City. The Chiefs test results also came back negative, so that game scheduled for tonight at 7:05 Eastern. As of right now, will continue on, according to ESPN's Diana Rossini. This, of course, coming after Cam Newton tested positive for coronavirus. The Patriots apparently will travel to Kansas City in 2 planes, one of which will carry the 20 players who have been in close contact with Newton. The team will leave from 2 different airports, but are scheduled to arrive in Kansas City at about the same time. So that's actually going to happen. I think this was, they seemed to, there's part of me that thinks, okay, maybe wait one more day, because there's a chance that, there still isn't a positive. The White House press secretary, after testing negative all week last week, or, since the president tested positive, and then she tested positive this morning after several negative tests, after several negative results were returned. So, part of me thinks that they should find a completely different time to play this game. The other part of me thinks that just one more day would really be helpful. Clearly, like I just laid out there, doing some things to keep, to at least put some measures in place. But at the end of the day, man, if they've got it and they get on that football field, a lot more people are going to have it. So we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't happen. There's not a big out, because that's the kind of thing that can, frankly, shut down a season. You get the momentum that's already started by the Titans having 20 positive cases, and then if one guy gets on the field with COVID-19 in this game, again, between the Chiefs and the Patriots, and there ends up being 20 more cases between the 2 teams, then that's where things really start to get sketchy. Hopefully that's not the case, though. I'm a little, that was one of the more intriguing games of this weekend, was the Patriots and Chiefs. Without Cam Newton, it's considerably less interesting, but nonetheless, the game is going to happen tonight, and hopefully it doesn't result in something catastrophic. Of course, tomorrow, Touchline Talk with Josh Doring, 11 a.m. Eastern, and then Around the Bases with Chris Brown at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure that he'll spend some time breaking down the divisional round in the MLB playoffs. Josh, I'm sure there's something to talk about on the soccer side of things. I'm not going to act like I'm well-versed in that at all, but things are in full swing over there as well. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Chris Brown at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back on Wednesday, same place, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see everybody on Wednesday.